Seriously Pointless Conversations about Culture, your Seriously Pointless podcast about all your nerdy and geeky things throughout the United States and I don't know where else, but that's the kind of thing I'm going with today. So today I am not joined by one of our regular guests. I'm actually joined by one of the excellent hosts from Not Your Father's podcasts, one of the tripod legs of the tripod, if you would. He hails from all the way over in sunny California as well. It's Jesse.
Well,
Jesse, how you?
Sunny Arizona, actually.
Oh, Arizona. Okay.
Yeah.
So I thought you guys were all in California. Okay, that's kind of interesting. I didn't know that. So
yeah, 2 of the 3 tripod legs are in California.
Okay. So, but it's still sunny, so I was halfway there. So
yeah,
I should get to know where you're from a little bit better, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm from Arizona. Well, I'm from California originally. I met Vito and Mike from Not Your Father's Movies over in California. We all went to school together. Yeah, and we got to know each other. We all love movies. We've all been bullshitting about movies for years, probably like 10 years at this point.
There you go.
Yeah, and so we decided to do a whole podcast about that. And on top of movies, I also really like board games as a nerdy personal pursuit.
Hey, you know what? That's that, and that is an excellent segue for like what we're going to get into today, guys. Is we're actually going to be talking about one of the I guess premier board games of the 20th century. Yeah. Is Settlers of Catan. It's a classic that a lot of people have played. I mean, even some of my relatives who are like not really nerdy at all, they're just like, oh, we found this really random obscure game one time at Walmart of all places back in like the early 2000s, and we ended up playing it. You know, it's stuff like that. You know, so it's one of those games that I guess is really kind of set the stage for board games throughout the world, and we're going to dig into that a little bit kind of to follow up. But yeah, that's an awesome kind of start to the episode, because I mean, being kind of an aficionado, as you said, of board games yourself, I mean, you've probably been playing this one for a while, right?
Oh, yeah. Me and my family, we've been playing it for years. I actually haven't played it in a couple years because we played it so many times. We got so tired of it.
I know. You get a little burnt out sometimes, don't you?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Eventually, like, you've traded all the sheep. You traded all the brick or clay with each other, and you're like, all right.
You could only build the longest road so many times before you're just like, I'm done. I'm so done with this.
Yeah.
But yeah. So let's let me ask you this. So where did you actually first run into Settlers of Catan? Can I ask you that?
Yeah, that was at a family Thanksgiving. My cousins brought it over. This was I think like 15 years ago. Okay. Yeah, so Thanksgiving, they brought it over. They're like, hey guys, we have a new game to play. Normally we play something like Taboo or like some sort of word party game. This was different. They're like, guys, we have a strategy game for you. And it's not Risk. It's not going to last for 10 hours.
Oh, sweet Jesus. That's other horrible memories right there for me too. So
yeah, bittersweet memories. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, so just to put it in perspective, we used to do like a family vacation with like my uncle. My dad is a big family, so he's got like 6 brothers and like an older sister. And so we would like all go down to vacation together and down to the beach or whatever, and they would bring Risk, and it would always be a week-long game. But the brothers, what they would do is they would all team up on the younger kids and eventually defeat us, and then they would like truce, and they would just quit. And I'm like, you guys suck. And they would do that every single time. And every single time you think they're going to like go against each other, but they wouldn't. And it just made me love and hate Risk so much.
Yeah.
But yeah,
you always think there's a chance because you have an army of like 100 dudes you'll randomly get, and you're like, oh, that's it. I can wipe everybody out. And then the next turn, somebody gets 102 dudes. And then you're gone.
You slowly whittle you away. You're like, I can survive if I just take over Australia. It's great. But no, it'll never last. They'll eventually invade. Eventually, like somebody's like, I'm going to put 1,000 units like right there on that one point and just invade you and relentlessly like hit you like a rock, like water running against a rock. It's eventually going to wear you away. But yeah, we're not talking about Risk. We're talking about other strategy games, which that just shows. But you know how much we love our games. But so you first kind of ran into the game kind of at a family function, right? So where did it go from there?
from there, so my cousins introduced it. We all really liked it, and then from there, I think my brother and my sister bought it, and then we had like just family games for years on end. Like to this day, I still go. Like even though my sister lives in California, I still go over to her house every or not Thanksgiving, every New Year's. That's the whole day I'm thinking of. Every New Year's, and we played board games well up till midnight for like hours on end. And Catan was always a staple of that. So like, even if I didn't see my family for a while because we're all different ages or whatever, all of our own families. Like New Year's, Catan was always a thing, and it's been basically a family tradition, and it got us to branch out to even more games afterwards.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. So talking about branching out a little bit, what other games are you into? Like I know, like board game wise, because I know I love board games, but I do not have the fascination of them as like say James. I really wanted to have James on here with you because he is. I'm talking like he's like you. He has a whole shelf, like a whole bookshelf of just games that he's collected over the years. That's the kind of guy he is, and he loves these kinds of things. And this is kind of where I got my fascination with board games too. So
that's awesome.
What are some of your top games other than Catan?
I've got a handful. I'm going to tell you right now that I have an extra nerdy pursuit in board games, which is I actually play some solo board games. Okay. That's been my substitute for video games for probably like the past 5 years. I work on a computer all day, and I get so sick of staring at a screen that like playing with something, doing something physical, but still being able to, I don't know, level up a character and doing a dungeon crawl is still something I like to do. So I do that through board games now rather than video games. So I have some games that I like to play by myself, like Mage Knight. That's one of my top ones, or Spirit Island. I also play Spirit Island with friends too, but like it's such a crunchy game that you can't really play with more than 2 people. Otherwise, everybody's head just hurts.
Yeah, a lot of numbers probably.
Yeah, and then so many numbers, way too many numbers. And then my top 2 games to play if I have a crowd of people and I want to either introduce them to a game or play a game with them, it's Cosmic Encounter. That's my favorite. It's a wild game. No game is ever the same. Everybody plays a random race of alien every game, and it's totally different. Any one of these races could be a brand new board game in and of itself, but there's like 50 of these guys. It's great.
That sounds really cool. I've never heard of that one. I have to look that one up later. That'd be a fun one to James, because James and I like stuff like that. We like playing big strategy games. The wives, not so much. They kind of hate it when we get together because they know we're either gonna like team up and try to go after them, or we're gonna like just butt heads the entire time, and then they'll just wait. They basically kind of like Jackie and Kelly just kind of like shift to the ashes, and they're like, "Do you want to be friends, Jackie?" And they kind of go off and do their little thing. That's what they do. So,
well, I can tell you, Cosmic Encounter is one of those games that I can get my wife to play. She actually likes it, and also like it is strategy, but there's like it's kind of wild and zany. Like you have to attack people, but the game dictates who you're going to attack, and then you have to ally with people. So it's like this constant backstabbing, and everybody expects it. It's great.
That sounds really fun, actually.
Yeah. And then the second game that I've been playing a lot with a game group recently is called The King's Dilemma.
I've never heard of that one either. I mean,
okay, this is a new game, and the pitch is kind of wild. Imagine you're a leader of a house in the Game of Thrones world. Only it's not Game of Thrones world. Okay. It's a bunch of leaders dictating policy throughout a kingdom. Mm-hmm. And you can either raise a kingdom to glory or send it to ruin. In my particular group, we have sent this kingdom to absolute ruin. We've done some terrible things.
You're like, what, child labor? Yes.
Something similar. Yeah. That has happened. We've purposely gone to war. We've made zombies appear out of nowhere because it started out as a noble pursuit to feed the poor, and then it ended terribly.
Well,
yeah. It's also a game where you can only play the campaign like one time through.
Okay.
Because it's like a game where you have to open up it's like a choose your own adventure. Depending on the policy that you vote for, you open up a new envelope, which has a new series of policies for you to vote on.
That is really cool.
So we all backstab each other and randomly vote with each other, and we are progressing this story to do something totally unique that nobody else that has this board game has ever experienced before. And that's awesome.
That sounds cool. Something that may say, my brain is like, I need to write everything down, but I know I'm going to listen to it. I'm going to listen to this podcast 1,000 times here in the future to like make sure everything sounds good. So I'll probably write it down at some point. That's great because I always like to find new things that we play because a lot of times in our group we're very much so it's a group of 3 husbands and wives. So you got 6 people, and then one of the wives' sisters comes over and she plays with us as well. We usually do a lot of RPGs and like D&D, Pathfinder, things like that.
Oh yeah, classic fun stuff.
But like every once in a while, we're like, man, I need to break from this. Let's play some board games. And I don't think we've really gotten anything new in the last like year or so. Like I'm trying to think of some of the games we usually play. Like we'll play like Small World, King of Tokyo, Hex, Pandemic, things that you can have a lot of people play, and it's usually a little bit more party centric. But recently, I bought Twilight Imperium on a whim, and I was that went way. I pulled when the booklet is literally to play the game is like a fucking novel. I was like, holy shit! I should have done a little more research on this.
Yeah,
I was just like, so that's gonna be one of those, like you said, I'm gonna try and talk to my buddy to see if he wants to maybe try and start and play, because I was looking up online and it's like apparently some of these games can go on for months. Yeah, and I was just like, that was a bit of a time sink. So I was like, oh, I told him, I was like, you have to choose, James, Twilight Imperium or WoW, because right now he likes WoW Classic. He likes to play that with some people, and he's just it's good stuff. So but yeah, that's kind of what I am playing. But yeah, I kind of had the same kind of idea as you whenever I was talking, kind of going back a little bit to your first introduction with Catan. I know I'm kind of zigzagging everywhere through here, but like whenever my aunt actually introduced me, and she is, like you said, not even a board game enthusiast whatsoever. She got it from a relative of hers that lives in Norway, actually. And they came over to visit her probably back in like 2005. Okay. So like you said, I was about 15,
around the same time,
about 15, 20 years ago, which is kind of funny you say that, but that was about the time that everything started, like all the board games and stuff started to come in, like European board games started to really saturate the United States, the American market, as it were. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of where I got into that first. And I was like, well, board games aren't like Monopoly or Risk. And it's like, you can still have that competitive feel to it, but it's like not really, it's still not like super involved. You know what I'm saying? But it's still complicated enough that it like tweaks your brain a little bit and gets you going, like how I want to do this. Like, what goal do I want to go? Do I want to have the most settlements? Do I want to have the longest road? Do I want to have like whatever? Do I want the largest standing army? It's like whatever it is,
Yeah. But or do you want the most cities? Or do you want the guy who just has tons of sheep? Yes. And then you trade out all those sheep.
I will be warm as fuck, and you can deal with it. I may not be able to build houses, but my people are warm. It's all that matters. It's just like, who thinks of this? It's like, okay, whatever. Sheep are great, but yeah, that's that's where I first got into it a little bit, like my first board games, and then, like you said, with New Year's Eve. It's funny you bring that up, but that's where. My buddy James and I, we really started. So he's a doctor at one of our local hospitals, and so he was away a lot of times for like med school and things like that. But I would be here at home, and his mom and dad would always throw like a big New Year's Eve party and things like that. And so you'd have like my mom and dad and some of the other church friends would come over. Well, they would come over, and his brother would come in. His brother's actually a priest now, and he'd come up from seminary. And we'd all sit there and we'd all get drunk and play things like Arkham Horror or Settlers of Catan and things like that. And then, like you said, we'd be up to like midnight or 2 a.m. playing. And it was so much fun. That just brings back all those memories. Like we haven't done it. We didn't do it last year, obviously, because of COVID reasons. But it made me kind of think like, man, I can't wait to do that this year, because I know they're going to try and do it. Hopefully we could all get together and do that. I was kind of hoping for that. But yeah, it's just funny how everyone kind of has similar life experiences, right? Like you all kind of did the same things, but yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm glad we both have the New Year's Eve board game tradition.
Maybe it's just something because all I know is that was the same year. Last time I remember playing it with them, that was the first year that they decided they were going to make. They made grappa for fun, which is it's alcohol. I don't know if you're familiar with it's an Italian alcoholic beverage. It's literally just basically Italian moonshine. It's what it is. So, yeah, so you know where this is going. And so they're like, try this, and I'm like, oh, it's so smooth. And they're like, oh, by the way, it's like 45% alcohol. And I'm like, holy shit. And I'm like, I just shot it. And I'm like, oh, this is good. And I'm like thinking they're giving me something like, cheap or whatever. No, that's the kind of person his dad is. So he's like, well, just try this, Dave. And I was trashed after like an hour. I was like, Dan, I'm like, that's not a nice thing to do, man. That's not a nice thing to do. I had the worst headache. Yeah. I know. No, they don't warn you at all. They're awful people. So they have. I mean, I say that sarcastically, obviously, but they're great. They're great, but yeah. Speaking of like family like interactions, that's kind of where Settlers of Catan comes from, right? I don't know if you know a whole lot about it, but let me kind of do a quick little rundown. So obviously, we're talking about Settlers of Catan, which is it's affectionately known as just Catan or simply Settlers. It's a multiplayer board game designed by Klaus Tuber. I'm mispronouncing his name, but it was first published in 1995 in Germany by Cosmos Games. And like I said, the whole kind of basis of this is that players take on roles of settlers that are attempting to build and develop holdings while trading and acquiring resources. And players gain points as their settlements grow. The first to reach a set number of points, typically 10, and that's the person that wins. But since then, like I said, they have added so many more things on it. So like, I'm just curious on my end. Did you know that this originally came from Germany, or did you just think it was just one of those games that they threw into the ether at all?
I knew it came from Germany. I don't know much about the creator though. But yeah, I know this was like a huge. I think in general, board games like this were always bigger in Germany or in Europe in general.
Yeah, so kind of doing a little bit of research on this. So it was back in the probably mid '80s that board games were getting really big in West Germany. So this was still before the fall of the Berlin Wall. Okay, and so you had East and West Germany, and so in West Germany. They had a lot of how do I put this? They had a lot of family time or downtime where people would get together and they would start to play board games. It was pretty normal. It's kind of like in Russia, people like to play chess, things like that.
Sure.
But like in Germany, they like to do strategy games a little bit more, and so there was always kind of this homegrown idea of like. People making their own kind of games at home and then trying to take them to publishers and trying to have them published for at least the European market was a lot bigger at that time. But they actually got this idea. Mr. Klaus actually got this because he didn't really like his job, honestly. like most of us were just like, why do you do this? Well, I don't really like what I do for a living. It's just, it makes money and it keeps my family and it clothes them, food in my family's mouths and clothes on their back. But it's like, what do you have a passion for? Sometimes it's like, so he was actually a dental, he's a dental lab job. So basically he owned a dentistry essentially, but he wasn't a dentist. I don't think so.
That sounds really boring.
And I'm right. But the thing is, he inherited it. So it was like my father had this, and I had this, and my kid is going to have this. So it's like
you have to keep it. You have to keep
keep going. It's just like what's not to love about teeth? Sorry, I would not be that person. Like I even though like from my I deal with the public on a regular basis for my job, and I could only imagine like. Putting your hands in somebody's mouth, I'm like, oh no, I don't do that.
It would take somebody who does that with teeth to come up with a game where you trade like wheat and sheep as fun.
Yes, that sounds about right. It's very methodical kind of thing. It's like you're sitting there just cleaning somebody's mouth, like man. I wonder what I could do today. Like, maybe I'll make a board game. You're just sitting there and you're like talking to yourself, and people are like, what is he talking about? Like, he just starts talking about how he wants to do like sheep and wheat. He's like, wheat sounds like a good idea. And the people are just thinking he's going nuts. He's just cleaning their teeth. That's the kind of shit I would probably do.
They probably just kept nodding their head too. Like, oh yeah, that sounds great.
Well, it's great, yeah. Like, he'll ask him, maybe he would ask him questions or something like that. Like, while they had shit in their mouths, like, what dental hygienist doesn't do that? They're like, oh, hey, how's your family doing? And you're just like, gee, thanks. Ask me a question while you got like a tool shoved in my mouth, or you're suctioning out water in my mouth.
What's weird is how often they understand.
Yeah, it's
that is a skill in and of itself.
Yeah, they're like, oh, hey, the family's doing great. Oh, yeah, yo, good. Little Jimmy just turned 15. That's great. And you're just like, oh, I don't know how you got that out of there, but we'll go with it. Like you said, it's a whole other ballpark on that end. But yeah, so he was very much of the mind that he didn't really like his job, so he was trying to find an outlet, because at that time period, like most people in like West Germany, they're still kind of coming out of that World War II kind of like mentality too. Yeah. Like, a lot of these people were like probably kids when World War II happened, or very, very young after the Reconstruction kind of happened. So they're kind of like, oh, a job's a job. I have to do my job kind of thing. And much like, our greatest generation was, for us, they're like, a job's a job. So you do your job.
Sure.
And you don't ask, you don't complain or anything like that. But so he kind of wanted to find an outlet for his creative energy, which apparently he had an abundance of. And he actually started going to these board game conventions, which apparently it's one of the first ones in the world, from what I can gather, from what little I could find. And I'm gonna butcher this name to death. It is phenomenal. It's Spielkreis Heichelspinchen. Yeah.
I know what you're
German.
Talking about.
I have German heritage, and I don't know how to fucking speak German apparently, so that's great. So
yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I've seen this name written online, and like this sticker is plastered on board game boxes that win awards there, and I've never known how to pronounce it. But I know it's Spiel. I'll just call it that.
We'll call it affectionately Mega Big German Game Convention. How about that? We'll just call it that. I'm sure it's like GameCon. Wow, let's make it simple, Americans. Let's go. So we're yeehaw. Anyways, so he started going into these conventions and kind of like started playing around with other people, and he started getting ideas. And he actually tried to put in a couple of his own. Actually, and they got published, I think, after a couple of years, but they really stayed central to like Germany and like Europe, and they never really had this big mass market appeal. But eventually, he actually put in the time and effort, and he actually started using bringing friends over, and because I believe the first couple games he did, he really just kind of like kept it to himself. He didn't really take it out into public and things like that. The second one, which is Settlers of Catan, which is like I believe is the second or third one, he started bringing people over, like friends and family, and he actually like started using them as like test groups of all things, which is great. Okay. So much like us, he really started to like work out the kinks on his game and things like that, and to learn, what makes it a good game. Did this game go for too long? Did this game go? Are the game mechanics off? He started like having people take notes.
Were there too many sheep on the board?
Yes, there are always too many sheep. They have overpopulated, and now the sheep are ruling the world. It's just like, are they too fluffy? Do you not want to harvest these sheep? Yes, they are too fluffy and they're too cute. Yeah. God. Now you've got me thinking about my kid. My kid just started making animal noises, and now he knows the noise for sheep, and he goes ba 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 ba. So that's my brain right there. It's just 1,000 different directions. Yeah,
I mean, there's a period when they're like 1 or 2, and it's just like animal noises are just all the rage. And that's like they're so fascinated by any animal they see, and then they just start like spouting out the noise that animal makes. That's like their favorite thing to do. Not even naming them. Just saying what they say.
Yeah, so it's funny. My wife, she's a Spanish teacher, so we're teaching him Spanish and English, and she'll ask him like, "Que dice caballo?" So he'll be like, hee hee hee, like a horse, like hee hee hee. That's how they say it. They neigh in Spanish, or like. But the thing is, when we try to ask him like, "Que dice elefante?" he makes this horrendous like squeaky noise, and I'm like, "What is that? That is not even an elephant noise." And I'm like, where did you hear this from? But I got him on video, and I want to post it later on at some point to let people see this, because it's the most hilarious thing I've ever seen in my life. It makes me laugh every time. I love it to death. But
we're just two boys with a shared bucket full of dreams and a little bucket full of various topics. My name's Callum, and with me as always is
Stephen.
And together we're the Talking Bucketheads.
We discuss everything from movies to music albums and social issues and everything in between. Every week we discuss the latest movie news, followed by 2 topics which we take out of our bucket. The bucket decides everything, and every week is a gamble.
There's new episodes every weekend. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Music, and wherever else you find your podcast. Come along with us and take a dive in the bucket.
But yeah, so like bringing family into it, like I said, he really gets his family involved in this board game aspect of testing it and trying it and just making sure everything works out well. And actually, after he tests it for probably a good like 3 to 4 years, and so he puts a lot of time and effort into this. And he eventually takes it to the board game convention. I believe it is in around like 95, 96. He takes it there, and it actually wins first prize of all things. And a lot of times, from what I've gathered, is that board games, when they win this award back in the day, they would win the award, they'd gain some popularity, probably sell a few thousand units, and then they would kind of slump off and they wouldn't go outside the European market. Well, apparently that did not happen to this, which is it's amazing. So what happened was it kind of slowly, like most things do, it saturated Europe. It didn't go away. It kept on selling hundreds of thousands of units, and it eventually actually made its way into New York, which New York is like the big epicenter. It's the international trade point for the United States, obviously. And that's where it got picked up by Mayfair in the U.S. And obviously it was all downhill from there for the U.S. market, at least. So, but yeah, it was kind of one of the Cinderella stories of the time, because
it's the Cinderella board game. Yeah,
essentially. Yeah. He did not expect it to be as popular as it was. And it's just blown up, man. Yeah. I mean, between 95 and 2015, to put it into perspective, it's sold more than 22 million copies, and it's been put into over 30 languages. So I don't think any other board game can boast that. I mean, I don't know any other. I mean, maybe Monopoly, maybe. I don't even know if Monopoly, you could put Monopoly up there. What do you think?
Hold on. Monopoly, I'm Googling this right now. Monopoly units sold. I have a feeling it's going to be bigger. I have a feeling.
I mean, it might be.
It's quite a bit bigger. It's 275 million.
I'm sorry, Hasbro. Don't come after me with a lawsuit slap. If we're like, how dare you? A guy like shows up at my house and like a top hat and a monocle and just slaps me across the face and then hops out in his little car and just like, beep, 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 beep. And I'm like, wow, that came out of nowhere. Yeah, that's the kind of shit they would probably do just to make a point.
That'd be great. If you recorded that as a podcast episode on video, I would love to see it. I think you would. I think that'd be your most popular video by far.
Getting pimp slapped by the Monopoly man.
That sounds pretty entertaining to me.
I mean, I'll be honest with you. I wouldn't know what to do, and I would probably just take it and just like let it happen and hope it got on video, because I could probably throw it on TikTok or something. Who the hell knows? So,
and I would hope you would hit him back, because honestly, Monopoly, it really sucks.
That's an awful game, isn't it?
That's a terrible game. Like with Catan, right? He played with his family and friends. It's very clear that whoever made Monopoly or Risk never did that.
No,
they never had to experience like a 10-hour game with their family.
it was a guy that was like probably a banker in real life, but he's like, what's fun for me? I'm gonna make a banking game. That sounds like fun. And then on top of it, I'm gonna make it where kids will learn about the American real estate market on an early age and learn that it's not fair and that it sucks. What?
I do happen to know some Monopoly history. It's actually really cool. It was like a socialism game and a capitalism game made at the same time. In the socialism game, everybody won, but in the capitalism version, only one person won. But everybody get that game better, and it was supposed to highlight I think it was supposed to highlight how socialism was better because everybody wins.
That is bizarre.
Instead, Monopoly, the capitalistic version, took off and sold 275 million copies.
I don't know how I'd feel about like a Marxist or a socialist version of Monopoly. That'd be kind of amazing.
It sounds really boring, to be honest. It's like, oh, everybody gets money. One person passes go, everybody gets money.
You flip over a card. You flip over a card. We see that you are a capitalist dog. Time to take down your industrial complex. It's like, what?
If anybody could make that game and make it entertaining, I would actually really like to play it.
I know. It's just like you see if you own more than X amount of X, it's like you pull a card and it says if you own more than X amount of property, divvy that among the other players, and I'm like, son of a bitch. Just like your wealth will be redistributed to the Commonwealth. All hail to the glorious leader. I'm like, what? That makes no sense. It's like some North Korea bullshit.
Maybe you just try to be the worst player because then everybody has to pay you instead of you giving away all of your stuff. I guess, that's a secret.
I could do. Because there's sometimes, fun fact, I hope James listens to this later. There's sometimes when I know he's already got a game plan and he's already, I wait, whatever game we're playing, I can see him ahead of time, he gets few turns ahead of me and he's so far, I'm I'm not going to win this. So my whole goal of that game is to torpedo him as hard as possible and make him lose. It drives him up the wall and it's so much fun to do. It's just phenomenal. I don't know if you've ever done stuff like that, but it's some days I like to do that.
Definitely done that. With Catan too, because you can actually start trapping people, making sure they can't build settlement. Yeah. Oh, the roads are the worst weapon. It's okay, well, I guess I'm stuck on my portion of the board then because I have 5 roads surrounding me. I can't go anywhere.
Yeah, I know. So I guess we're kind of digging into it. The gameplay. So do you want to explain a little bit about the gameplay at all on Catan? Because I know we kind of did a brief overview about how you play and things like that. Or because I have a lot. I have a whole page dedicated to the gameplay. So I guess,
I see that.
I know. Unfortunately.
Yeah, I guess what's unique about the gameplay, even starting out, is the way you set up the game is different. Being that you set up with the map being different every time you play the game, right?
Because you have those hexagons, and it all gets shuffled together, and it's just randomly kind of set up, right?
Yeah, it's not like Monopoly or Risk where it's the same board every time, which gets really boring after the second time you play.
I mean, you kind of get even though it's kind of a random roll of the dice on Monopoly, you kind of have a game plan about what you want to get at some point, and you can kind of go from there. But with Catan, you have to reevaluate yourself every single time, right? Every time the board is created.
Yeah.
So even if you start from there, so it's depending on where you start, right?
Yeah, the position of the lands are all different, and then you number them. They all have numbers associated with die rolls, right? So if you roll the 6 and the 6 happens to be on clay, that means whoever's adjacent to the clay will get some clay. Yeah, and so you place your settlements strategically on these differently placed hexagons with differently placed numbers every single game, and then and so the first thing you do is placing the settlements, which is probably the most strategic part of the game. Where are you going to start out? What resources are you going to start collecting first off? And then it's another thing that I really liked is the first person goes and they place their settlement, and then it goes around the table, right? And then the last person to place, he places 2.
Yep.
And then it goes back around.
I know. Even at the very, very beginning, it kind of makes you think, do I want to go first and be able to place where I want to go, or do I want to go last and have just a little bit extra to start off with. And so just that, it's something different and new that a lot of people I don't think were used to in American games.
Normally it's like, do I want to be Mr. Hat or do I want to be the car? I'm going to be the hat, and then you just put that at go and you roll the dice, right? But this time it's like
I'm more of a puppy dog kind of guy. I like whatever that was, a Scottish Terrier, whatever those things are.
Yeah. I always loved the top hat. That was always my thing. Oh man. Yeah.
But that's like you said, it's just like you don't really, or like what color do I want when you're playing Sorry? Do you want to be red, blue, or green or yellow? It's just like, okay, cool. But at the end of the day, you kind of sit there and tell yourself, it's like, but with this, it's, you don't really care what color you are, like whatever, but it's you kind of get that strategy kind of set into it. Or even if you want to do something like Risk, it's all random, right? Where you start off with, but you still kind of have that idea of like where you want to try and carve your pathway and what you want to try and conquer. It's kind of the same idea, but with this, it's not the same every time like it would be in Risk almost. But I that's what kind of really fascinates me about this game. And on top of it, like you said, they've added so many expansions to this game that you can throw in so many more tiles. Like you could literally double this thing in size if you choose to do so, and you can do it.
Yeah,
that's
fun.
The
6-player version. I sort of like the 6-player version. When it gets to 6, that gets too much for me. I like 5. I like 4 or 5 people. I think that's my sweet spot with this, because 5 people gets you the bigger map, but it doesn't take as long as it does with 6 people.
Yeah, it can take quite a bit of time with like 6 people. So like you said, especially like with like how you play the game, and eventually you set it up, and the whole point of the game is obviously to try and get up to I think it's 10 points is what you do to win.
Yeah.
And so as you go, you gain resources, and you have to use different types of resources to do certain activities. Like if you want to build a road, you have to have is it wheat or is it wheat and clay, and then it makes brick?
Wait. All right, so wheat and clay. So wheat and clay, I'm trying to remember what they're used for. You can use wheat, clay, brick, and wood to make a settlement. And settlements are always worth a point, and then settlements always help you get more resources. And then it takes like 3 wheat and 2 ore to upgrade your settlement to a city, which means you'll get double the resources whenever those numbers are drawn. Plus, you get an extra point. And then you have to use like clay and wood to make the longest road, which gets you 2 points. You can get you can get like these random resource cards, which is I think ore. What is it? Ore, sheep, and wheat. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you can get these cards that give you like an extra point, or maybe they'll just give you the largest army. So there's like so many things that you can use these different resources to build. And my favorite part is like collecting these resources, looking around, figuring out what everybody wants, and then you start trading.
Yep.
Yeah, that's like my favorite part of Monopoly always. And this part just brings that to the forefront. Like, every round you can trade all of your new stuff with everybody that's around you, and you better come up with a better deal than somebody does to your right, because otherwise they're going to take what you wanted, and then you won't get that sweet settlement.
I don't know how many times when my wife and I started dating, which was probably about 15 years ago, we like you said, it was about the same time we started playing this with my aunt, and we just do this every Christmas, and it was the same thing. She got really good about giving out better deals than I did, because I'm a lot shrewder than she is about like what I want to give away and things like that. I'm a little bit of a tight ass compared to her. So, and she was like way more like, she didn't care. She would do things like I can do without an extra sheep, or I can do without an extra ore, or whatever it was. Yeah. And she would do that, and she won so many games because she'd only do it like once or twice, and I would never do it when I was younger. Like, I say younger, but 23. I was like 20, 18, something like that at the time. And I would never do that. And I think it was just my biggest downfall about being willing to negotiate. I was just like, looking back at it, I'm like, I was an idiot, It was just like, and she was way way more about that game than I was. She was way into it. She still likes it. We actually ended up buying it. She still plays it. We play it every once in a while. I kind of want to play with my kids. So,
Oh
but
yeah,
it'll be great. So,
yeah.
but so like on top of these other these resources and the way to win, like what are some of the hindrances in the game? So I know like there's two big major ones. Do you remember what they are?
The two big hindrances, is it like the robber in the desert?
Yep.
Or
those are the two big ones. So do you want to explain like kind of the mechanics behind those? Or do you remember?
The robber is like the only way you can really like attack somebody in any way. And the robber is every time you roll a 7, which is obviously the most common roll you can make with 2 die. Every time you roll a 7, nobody gets resources from their tiles because there is no number 7 now. Instead, you take this little robber token and you cover up somebody's like hexagon where they can normally draw resources. You cover it up so that way they can't get resources from their hexagon, and you get to steal a card from somebody who is attached to that hexagon.
Which that could be a huge hindrance. I mean, especially if you're like, man, I just really want to upgrade my cities, and it just drops it down on that ore tile or whatever it is, and it just totally just torpedoes your whole line of attack at that point for the game or strategy for the game.
Yeah,
and then it kind of like eventually it's like, well, then maybe that person will roll 7 and they'll put it on yours. It'll screw you over for a little bit, but it's so much fun. Or maybe they put it on the one tile where it's like completely devastates the only resource place for that resource in the whole game.
Oh, I hate it when that happens.
And then you're just sitting there with like 6 freaking like, wheat in your hand. You're like, what in God's name am I going to do with 6 wheat? I'm like, like, I'm just going to turn it in.
Yeah.
I'm just going to trade 2 in. I'm just going to trade it in.
Oh, yeah.
Just kind of go with it,
Oh, yeah. It's always the worst, especially when you have the wheat and you need ore in order to make wheat efficient. And then somebody blocks out all the ore. It's like, well, thank you. I guess I have a bunch of useless cards. And then like this happened to me way more than I've ever wanted it to. Like somebody blocks me, and then like it's a tile, and it's like I don't care. That number never gets rolled, and then the number gets rolled like 5 times in a row.
Yep. You're like, well, you're like, piss on you. It's just like I'm done. It's like I'm done. You just like that's kind of like a certain point. You kind of just throw your hands up a little bit, and you kind of want to just like strangle the Catan god, and just like why have you done this to me? Or it's here's a biblical reference. My God, why have you forsaken me? I don't know how many times I've said that. Like it's hilarious. I'll do it whenever our priest buddy comes into town, Andrew. It's James's brother, and I'll say that to him. And he goes, "Why do you constantly try to just get under my skin?" I do it just to kind of like pick at him a little bit. I'm like, my God, why have you forsaken me? And he's just like looks at me like, you're just being a jackass now, Dave. And I'm like, yeah, probably. But
normally what comes out of my mouth is like, my sister, why did you put the robber on me again?
That would be good. That would be good. I like that. My sister, why have you done this to me?
That normally comes out more passive aggressively.
Yes.
So another part that I love about Catan is like we can get really into it, but at the end of the day, it lasts like 90 minutes, and then it's over, and then everybody like cools down, and you're like, "Well, do you want to play again?"
Yeah, you're just like, I don't know. You're just like a little party that's like, I want to win. You're like, and you're pissed that one person got up on you, and you like got just a little bit over on you, and you're just like, damn it, like why did this happen? And it's but I love that kind of stuff. So. But like going into it a little bit more, so let's talk about. Have you gotten any of the? So we kind of like touched on this a little bit. The expansions. Have you gotten any expansions at all, or played any of them?
Yeah, I played the Seafarers expansion.
Okay.
Which is really cool. It basically you have your little island, and it'll give you different island shapes to make use hexagons in. And then it has like a sea around it. And then maybe another little island that you can sail to. So instead of building roads, you can build this line of ships that goes over to this new island where you can then settle with your new little settlements.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah, it's not too complicated. It's just adding another layer onto what you already have. And I'm a huge fan of like pirates and ship themes in general, and I don't get that enough in my board games. So I really like this expansion.
So Tyke, kind of like topping off of that, jumping off that. So something I didn't go over in the history. Did you know that Klaus had originally wanted, so that the theme, the whole theme that he had off this, like the history, he was kind of like looking into Vikings a lot. And so that's where he gets this idea of the settlers are coming to this land to build a settlement. And so back in the day, a lot of these Viking tribes, they weren't unified, right? And so a lot of them, they would just go off on their own, and sometimes they would land in the same settlements or in the same lands, and they would try to settle. So you'd have multiple like Viking settlements, like still battling with each other on these new settlements.
That's cool.
And so that's kind of where he got this from. It's really kind of an interesting concept that, when you kind of bring that up with like trade routes, because that's what they did, is they would go, they would settle, make a settlement, plunder the resources, the people, whatever it is, and then ship it back to wherever they're from, up on Norway. That's what they would do. That's the whole.
Really awesome.
That was their shtick. So but yeah, it's kind of an interesting kind of concept. I totally forgot about that a little bit, but yeah, that's kind of cool. So have you played any of the other expansions other than the Seafarers one? Because that's the only other one I played too. So
I think there's this other one called Cities and Knights.
Yeah, so
that one is man, that one adds a lot of stuff. It's hard for me to I didn't play it that often because it often overcomplicated it and made it last a lot longer, which is something I don't really like in a game of Catan. But Cities, Cities,
go ahead.
It was like it added like 3 more resources. Like you could get like the extra special wheat, the extra special like parchment paper or whatever instead of the sheep wool, and then you could upgrade your cities to be a metropolis. And as you upgrade your cities, you get like, I think you get like more powers or something. I can't remember what was associated with that, but you do end up getting a lot more points. And then something weird happens when you roll a 7. It's not just that the robber is out. It's that there's a countdown timer, I think, that happens. Maybe it's not when you roll a 7. It's when you roll a die face. I'm going to explain this poorly because I haven't played this expansion that much.
No, it's okay.
But there's this countdown where you're going to be invaded by pirates. Mm-hmm. And you need to have knights out. You can actually build these knights, and you can manipulate the robber with them, and you can make them active. And if you have a bunch of active knights that are equivalent to the strength of these pirates that are about to invade, then the person who contributed the most knights gets a point. Yeah. Or if you fail, the person who contributed the least is going to have their city demolished.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's funny. I actually just looked up. You were like 99% there. So it's barbarians. And so all it is, it's barbarians instead of pirates. But yeah, it's the same thing, like you said. If the whole concept is right, like you get in there and you have to have the equivalency of knights to barbarians so you can survive, essentially.
Yeah.
But it throws in 3 new commodities: paper, coin, and cloth.
I can't remember how to. Your cities act weird in this one. That's what it is. Your cities can get you the normal resource, like sheep, or it can get you sheep and cloth.
Okay.
When it's upgraded to a city. So you don't get double of every resource this time. You get the special resources with cities.
Huh. That would be kind of cool. So I've actually never played any of the other ones except for the Seafarers one. I really kind of want to get them because once I know how you are with your kids. Because how old are your kids? My
kids are 5 and 2.
Okay, so they're probably getting close. Like probably once they get to like that 8-year-old maybe range, probably it's kind of where I was going to shoot for it. Probably.
Oh yeah, because I always let my daughter like come in, and she like we play like Candyland together because that's the most she can handle. But like when it comes to my board game, she always like wants to peek on the table, see what's going on, and then I let her like roll some dice or whatever. She gets really into it.
That's awesome. Yeah. And so like I noticed so I started playing. My nephews are about the same age as your girls,
Yeah.
So the oldest he is 8, and the youngest no, take that back. The oldest is 7, and the youngest is 5.
Okay.
So he's just getting. We actually started playing a lot of board games with the 5-year-old, and he is super competitive. Like it's unnatural. Like, and I just do things to like kind of piss him off. Like, but we'll play like Candyland, Chutes and Ladders. He actually really likes to play Monopoly of all things. We were talking about that earlier. Monopoly Junior. It's a little. Yeah, so it's the same thing, just junior version. So it's so funny, though. He gets so mad. I have never seen a child get so mad about losing the game. Like, I'm like, it says you have to go to jail. And he's like, I don't want to go to jail. And I'm like, I don't make the rules, man. I'm like, I'm just trying to be, tell you what's going on. He's just like, this game is stupid. And I'm like waiting for him one day to like just do the obligatory like board flip. It's what I'm waiting for.
Has he done it yet?
No, not yet.
Okay.
Thank God. He tries to cheat though to get around things, but he's like most small children. He's very, very bad at it. So he'll be like,
oh man, cheating at Monopoly was always a staple for us. But yeah.
So it's so funny. Like it's going on. I got 2 stories for cheating. One, so he'll roll. This is his pattern. He'll roll, and maybe he rolls like a 3, and he'll like, he sees that he's gonna land on like somebody's square to have to pay them, and he like skips over it. Like, that doesn't count. You little shit. It's like, why do you think that? I'm like, let's go back. Where were you at? And he's like, and then he tries to lie. He's like, I was here. And I go, well, if you were here, you didn't pay me for that. And he just goes, he just like deadpans. And I'm like, he's like, he gets caught in the lie. Like it's a double whammy. And he gets so pissed. The other story, talking about Monopoly, but like cheating. So my grandpa, he's passed away. He passed away a few years ago, but he was the same way. He loved Monopoly to death, and he would play with us, but he cheated so bad. So can you imagine a 60-year-old man is playing with like 8-year-olds and 10-year-olds, and he's cheating. So because he refused to lose, he wanted to win, but he was always the banker. So you already see this is going.
Oh
right?
Yeah.
Somehow he never ran out of money. And so he would miraculously like get titles and the deed cards for some of the properties. And I was just like,
dude, that's the way to play Monopoly right there. Let's be honest. It really just rewards a bunch of cheating. That's all it's for. Like my brothers, I have older brothers, and there's one time in particular where I remember they played, and then they got me to lose, and then once they got me to lose, they were done because their whole joy was cheating and trying to distract me from like landing when they landed on my properties, or stealing the money out, or taking my properties and giving it to themselves.
I don't know if you guys played it like as long as you didn't pay attention and you rolled, you wouldn't have to pay, right? That's what we did.
Oh yeah, that's a consistent rule. Yeah, we rewarded cheating.
Isn't that bad? If
you could get away with it, then it worked. That's the way we played the Monopoly.
That is phenomenal. Well, unlike Monopoly, though, like Catan is definitely like they definitely value the rules a little bit more. So much so that I don't know if you knew this or not, because I was kind of looking it up. They actually have a world championship of Catan.
No way, really?
Yeah. So it is. Let me look here. I had it pulled up. So let me go scroll down the old Wikipedia page. It is, so they have tournaments. They have a US national championship. So it's every year. Well, not in the last few years, but they kind of like started jumping it to where it was every other year or every 3 years, which is how they do the international, like the world tournament. And they have players come from all over the world. Like here's an example, like the winners, and they've had people from Ireland, Germany, Italy, the Czech Republic, Finland, Latvia, United States, Netherlands, Austria, Estonia, of all places, Mexico, Japan, Colombia, Denmark, Japan. I already said Japan, but Lithuania.
Yeah.
Lithuania, Hong
That's
Kong.
cool.
Apparently, it's like so. Like I said, they have so many places, and they're actually going to have it this year in Malta. Valletta, Malta is where it's going to be at this year, and it's. I don't know exactly when it is supposed to be. November. It's going to be in November.
Okay.
So for people, if you're listening and you want to watch it, I'm sure it'll be live streamed at some point on Twitch or somewhere, and you'll be able to watch it. So
Yeah.
a little part of me kind of wants to watch it this year and see what it's like, just
There's
to see what.
Yeah, a little part of me.
Like just to see what level do you have to be at to get to like the championships, and like how good do you have to be? I'm just curious. Because I don't even know if there's like I don't even know if there's a prize or anything at all. But I just think it's amazing that they would do something like this.
I think that's really funny. Is there a consistent like champion?
No, so that's the other thing. There is always somebody different. It looks like. So like the first year, it was if you go to like the Catan Wikipedia page, it's definitely on there. So you have I don't think anybody has won it more than once, from what I can tell. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because as much as I have grown up with Catan and have loved it, like especially being exposed to like later board games, one of the things that I've like come to not like as much is like the amount of chance that's involved.
There's
like,
definitely a lot of chance.
I mean, the fact that you're just rolling dice and like there's no way to really mitigate the number that comes out, you're just stuck with it. Yeah. That's something that it's like, well, sometimes the twos just get rolled like 5 times in a row, and that one guy who was on the 2 wheat hex suddenly starts getting tons of resources. You're like, what about my really good hexes? Why aren't they not producing anything?
I planned this out. Why isn't it working?
Basically, yes. So it's kind of interesting though that the same winner isn't. They don't have the same winner for this game over and over again, because that seems to point to the fact that there's probably some more chance going on here.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But like you said, much like it said, it's very much a chance based kind of thing. So, but yeah, kind of going off that, like it's just become that world phenomenon so much so that it like you said, it has that world championship and other things too. So they've got they love it. It's been beloved so much they made it into a video game twice. Which I actually have it on Steam. I love playing it.
One. Yeah,
it's pretty good, and they're actually working on making it into a movie. Actually, they're trying to of all things. So yeah, isn't that kind of bizarre? I don't know why somebody would like. What are you going to do? Let us go. We settle. We are of Catan. It's like, what?
I don't know. There's not much going on in Catan except for like warring settlements. I feel like that movie has been made and better.
Yeah, it's definitely like the Vikings TV show. Way better. I was all about that. That was like consumed like 3 years of my life. So I liked that a lot more in my opinion. But I don't. Yeah, I don't know. But
that theme is amazing. I love the theme in the beginning. Yeah,
dude. So my wife gets on to me. She's like, "Where do you get some of this freaking music?" Like, she doesn't like it, but she just thinks it's interesting. But I'll play that. Or like I played, what was the one? My mother told me someday you will die, or someday you will buy a galley with good oars, sail to distant shores, and that's another one of those songs they sing in there.
Yeah,
and I played it like constantly. Like one time she came home from work, and I was like taking care of my kid, and she's just like. It's like, what are you letting him listen to? Like, what is wrong with you? I'm like, I have problems, okay? I'm like, I listen to the Lord of the Rings, like, soundtracks, and, like, there are these other guys that do, like, this is, like, way off topic, but it's great. So, I listen to, it's a group, and I cannot remember what their name of the group is called, but they do, all the they go through all the Lord of the Rings books, and they look at all the, poems and lyrics done by J.R.R. Tolkien.
Yeah,
and they find that stuff and they make song. They put tunes to it. And they put they use the lyrics and they make the songs.
Oh, that's awesome.
They're so good. So and I have to look them up at some point, but I'll text it to you later. But
please do. I'll listen to them.
It's so good. But anyways, yeah, that's me going on my nerdy musical note there.
Oh,
But yeah, my wife.
if you like Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, though, recently we found out that on Castbox, I think
Mhm.
they have like dramatic readings of like The Hobbit. Like it's just the book being read, but every character has. It sounds like a professional voice actor doing it
Oh,
almost.
I love that stuff
then-
though.
Yeah, and then there's tons of background like music. Like when the songs come on, they're actual songs.
That is so cool.
It's really cool, and yeah, it's free. It's on Castbox. It's just The Hobbit. I can't remember the time. I'll text that to you too. And we're gonna have these links in the episode, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, we can throw them in there for you guys too. Yeah, so if you guys like this kind of stuff, because I know how you are, but I'm a very much I like to listen to audiobooks like when I'm doing stuff around the house and things like that. Right. And every once in a while, and it's funny you bring this up. My wife is actually rereading, so I have an old set of The Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings books from back from like the 70s. Like my dad bought them, and I
is that the one? Does Legolas look like? Does he look like he almost has like a perm? Not a perm, but you know, he's got
I don't know. I'd have to look at them again, but they're like the old. It's like this weird like gold, like off gold color, but they have a green like bookcase like container for all four of them to go into. It's old. It's like the cheap like the paperback versions where they kicked them all a bunch of them out at once. They reprinted them.
Yeah.
And my wife has been rereading The Hobbit of all things, and I was like looking at that, and I'm like, man, I really want to re-listen to all these again because I love those books to death, and it just kind of makes me think of this kind of stuff of like, you know, these distant lands and all these, you know, Middle Earth, and like what was it like to be there? And it's probably like horrifying if you didn't live inside the Shire or someplace nice. But it's just kind of one of those ideas of like, you know, what was this world like? Much like, you know, like you probably think about it like with Catan, it's like, what is this world like? What would it be like going to a brand new land and try to settle there and make a life kind of thing? So it's just really kind of interesting to look into. But yeah, it's
funny that they want to do it too, because like I think with Catan in particular, it used to be called Settlers of Catan. Now it's just called Catan.
So it's they shortened it. Like if you look at the box, I think it still says like in small writing, it's like Settlers of, and then it's just Catan. It's like as big as you can make it without covering up the artwork.
I actually think it's officially called Catan now. Like they even just dropped Settlers of.
Oh, they did?
Yeah. I think there's been a movement.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
you're right.
There's been a movement to I think it's kind of in response to colonialism in general. And they wanted to kind of like smooth that over and just say, all right, this is Catan now. We're not settling this place. Just Catan.
You know, we're lightly incorporated into our lives and building cities there, but we're not settling it.
It's like not settling it at all. Everything else is the same. We're just not settling.
Yeah, just like you're gonna use soft language here. Soft, gentle language. Cultivating Catan.
It's a game where everyone wins. Just
That's
like the socialist version of Monopoly.
Oh my sweet Jesus. And full circle. There it is. I love it. Well, all right, guys. So I think that's where we're wrapping it up, because like I said, I think we've just delved down into the murky mire, which is just us making up board game names. But so like let me ask you this. Kind of going off your guys' theme, would you let your daughter play this? Like at a certain point?
Absolutely. I can't wait to play when she's like, I think 8. I think 8 is when I'm finally gonna like give her a game and she's gonna learn it, and she will hopefully still think it's cool then, because by the time she's in high school she'll think I'm nerdy, and I know she's gonna rebel against it. But when she's 8, I'll get her while she's young and she'll get into it, and I think she'll really like it.
So I have that kind of the idea of like talking about high school and our kids going to high school. I have this dread that my kid is going to be like super jockey and like really into sports. And I'm just like, dude, I watch hockey and I like rugby. And I'm like, if you don't like those two things, I'm kind of like, I'm not here at all for you, unfortunately. And my wife wants nothing to do with sports. She's been to like 2 sports games her entire life. She went to a Cardinals game and a St. Louis Blues game with me because I love the Blues. So... But it's that's her. But other than that, I severely hope that like once he hits that kind of like 8 or like 9, he's gonna want to play it. I kind of want to take my Settlers of Catan over to my nephews to see if they like it and kind of see how they dig it, because that'll kind of give me a taste of whether or not my kid my oldest will want to play it. But like I said, yeah, it's one of those games. It's like you don't know whether or not they're going to like it or not, but that's why you have like 1,000 different board games. Hopefully, much like we do. Like just to see if they like. Hopefully, something sticks, and I swear to, I hope to God it's not Monopoly because I will have to break his heart every single time we play it because I will cheat. So I have to follow my grandfather. I have to follow my grandfather's footsteps and just destroy his life. I'm like, it seems that I own 98% of the board. Do you want to continue to play? just crush him. You be calling me John D. Rockefeller, sir.
Man, I think that's just a tradition of Dad to cheat at Monopoly. I think you have to continue.
Oh, absolutely. Just crush his dreams between traumatizing him as a child and like jumping out and scaring him, but also just crushing his hopes and dreams a little bit. So I'm like, it's okay. I'm just getting you ready for the real world. It's okay. It's all good.
This is what my father did to me. Now I pass it on to you.
That's right. And no hugs or kisses. And now to destroy your dreams. It's just like, what?
Classic Dad.
I know, absolutely. So, but anyways, Jesse, I just want to say thanks for coming by and just waxing philosophical with me and waxing and just shooting the bull with me a little bit about this wonderful family pastime that we've both had throughout our entire lives. But yeah, so do you want to plug where they can find you guys at on your podcast?
Oh yeah, so we're Not Your Father's Movies. You can find us at www.nyfmovies.com. All of our episodes are there. It links to all of our socials. You can also find us at NYF Movies on Twitter. You can follow us on Facebook, on our Facebook, Not Your Father's Movies Facebook page. We even have a subreddit, our Not Your Father's Movies. That's the least popular of all of our options. But if you want to go see that, then you can.
Well, Reddit is a dark place, my friend.
It's it is, but I love it.
It's true. And many a night, like just going off into the deep, but like, man, why am I on botched surgeries on Reddit, subreddit, or why am I on our what was the one I found the other way? Inspirational posters subreddit. Dude, there's some really fun ones out there. It's like just stupid stuff, and it's just like hang in there, and it's just like some guy like hanging from a noose or something like that. I'm like, who makes this shit up? Like, this is so dark and creepy. But anyways,
it has some. Reddit's always a mix of the terrible things and also like I'm glad I saw that. That's really cool. Or I don't know. I've got an affinity to Reddit. It's probably my favorite place besides. No, it's my favorite place.
Yeah, definitely better than TikTok. I'll promise you that. So.
Never been there. I see that through Reddit.
Okay, that is acceptable, sir. That is acceptable. But yeah, we're gonna put all of their links into our into the show notes. And just remember, guys, like I said, go check them out. Check out their podcast. See what episodes they have. Like I said, they have a ton of stuff. Anything. It's not just all nerdy stuff. They go over all kinds of different movies. They actually did a really great episode. The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance. I love that. I listened to it, and I love that movie to death because I love John Wayne, and I love who is the gentleman, the main guy that actually Jimmy Stewart. Yeah. I couldn't remember his name for life. Do you want the moon? I'll give you the moon. I love him to death. So he's a great actor. But yeah, they do all kinds of stuff, not just nerdy stuff. They cover a wide range of things, guys. So go out there and just check out their podcast. And also, if you guys like what you've heard here today, like and subscribe to our channel. Give me a review if you would like, because whether it's good or bad, I want to know what we can make better about the podcast. If you like things like this, and Jesse's dog just jumped into the frame, so it's okay. I've got ADD, and I can be severely distracted easily. My wife says I'm like a butterfly. I'm like, so tell me what butterfly. So she gets on to me all the time about that kind of stuff. But anyways, like and subscribe to our channel. Tell us what we did well. Tell us what we did bad, so we can fix the problems, make it better. Better content for you is what we want to do, guys. And like I said, we will hopefully. God, your dog is so cute. But Yeah, it's a train wreck. The whole thing is a train wreck is what it is. But anyways, guys, I want to say thanks for coming by, and again, Jesse, thanks for stopping by, and hopefully we'll have you guys on again. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
you know, to have some more fun, and like I said, you know, hopefully we can get you and James together, and you guys can really just merge together your love of board games. I'm sure you guys are just
that would be awesome, and we hope to have you on the podcast again because you've been on Not Your Father's Movies at this point.
Yes.
For our Hellboy episode, which is also on our site, and then you've also had Vito previously on your previous Hellboy episode, which again should be previous by the time this episode comes out, right?
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed is what we're hoping for. But like I said, yeah, it's a wonderful relationship that's blooming and growing, and I love you guys to death. So like I said, but hopefully, like I said, we can keep this going as much as possible. But
absolutely, thank you very much for having me on. This has been a lot of fun.
Awesome. So, all right, guys. So we're going to head out here. And like I said, guys, I hope you guys have a wonderful day and hope to see you next week on our next podcast. All right, guys. See ya. Have a good day. Bye. If you're interested in keeping up to date with new episodes on our channel, add us on any of your favorite podcasting apps or subscribe to our YouTube channel at Seriously Pointless Conversations. If you have questions or concerns, please email us at seriouslypointlessconvo@gmail.com. We appreciate any feedback. Thank you for listening to our show.